One of the other big conversations that comes up around AI is how quickly people anticipate it's going to change the nature of work, or at least the types of work that people are doing that require a human versus things that can be outsourced to technology. And there's a lot of conversation around how much more quickly the jobs landscape is going to evolve, and then how to think about preparing kids to enter such an unknown once they graduate. And I mean, even regardless of AI, the job landscape has been changing so rapidly, and that pace has been accelerating. The work that you and I do now didn't exist when we were respectively in school and thinking about what do you want to be when you grow up? How do you think about that with the kids that are coming through synthesis, and also with your own kids? How do you think about preparing them for a work landscape that we really have no idea what it's going to look like?
Yeah, I think that's I mean, it's frankly like terrifying as a parent, right? Because you kind of went through this, like as an entrepreneur, you kind of like you're have a lot of risk tolerance, and you're kind of open to finding your path. But yeah, sometimes I think about that too much. It is like really terrifying. Like it's you kind of like you sort of miss like the hunter gatherer, or the farmer days, where you're like, okay, if I teach my kid to farm, then they'll kind of know, they'll have a way to make the way in the world. And I think you could still do that. Like I still think you're gonna have accountants and lawyers and those sorts of occupations, because I think those things are fundamentally actually like creative in their nature. Like every problem is different, and I don't think we really have AGI that can act as an attorney yet, and I don't actually see that we're on the path to that. So you still have kind of these professions that are more or less stable, but certainly that more and more of the world is going toward these creative kind of niches that you have to kind of use your creativity to discover a niche that provides value for people. And it does feel like there's less standardization. You can't go get a job at a factory anymore. There's like less of this, like you can train up for something once and just kind of continuously do it forever, particularly in like the white collar work. So it's a terrifying thing to think about. And I think about it for my kids. It's like, let's build the skills so that you're upwind of whatever problems there are. Like I think if you build a really good grounding in physics, and you're a really good reader, so you have a lot of knowledge and vocabulary, like those sorts of things are quite likely to be useful. The ability to think critically and think logically using like physics and mathematics and those sorts of things are likely to be useful. And beyond that, you just have to realize like you don't know. So I think trying to get the kids comfortable with uncertainty and having that belief in themselves that they'll kind of get out and take action and sort of through action find what they're meant to be doing. I mean, I think that's the best you could do. And that it's just fundamentally scary too. Like I remember being 20, 25 and just like not knowing how the future would unfold. And I think people who are a little older sometimes like look back on that time with rose-colored glasses. But for me, I look back on it and I'm like, I'm very glad now. Like I have my family, I have my career. Like I know, what I'm going to be doing. I think it's very tough to find those things, when you're younger. So I have a lot of empathy for young people trying to figure it out. But I think ultimately, all you can do is go try things and just take action in the world somehow, and then use that feedback to course correct. So that's why we're going to keep fighting about education, because there is this uncertainty in the world, and there's nothing to be done about it in the end. Just have to embrace it. Try to learn what you think is most likely to be practically useful. Try to teach kids what's most likely to be practically useful, and teach them to go out and find their path. It's hard.
It's hard for sure, especially if you know, you've thought enough about what you want out of life that you're not comfortable just defaulting to a standard path.
Yeah,
But it's also, if you can equip kids with the ability to learn new things and the confidence to and the desire to, it hasn't been crushed out of them by years and years of coercive learning that have led them to associate learning with effectively torture. You can equip them with the skills that they need
I
to
think that's right.
think iteratively about their path
Yeah.
and pick up the skills along the way that they need.
Yes, I think that's right. This is partly why we start with math for the synthesis tutor, because I think when you can understand the math, then I think things are just less intimidating for you. Kind of anything else. If you can really understand math and physics, then when you're just not going to be intimidated by whatever the new thing is that you're supposed to learn. If you Most people, it's kind of crazy, but they don't understand what it means to understand something. And so any kind of new thing, it just kind of seems like magic to them. And I was this way before I really got a deep understanding of computer programming. Computer programming is what helped me, because it was this very intimidating thing with a bunch of jargon. And once I realized, like, no, you can just understand this from like atoms on up, like how it's working. You don't have to just like type in symbols and hope it works. Like, you can actually understand what's going on. That was this breakthrough for me, where it's like, oh, so I can just, there's nothing really that's going to be too complicated for me to understand if I take the time. And so I think that's an important thing with education, just giving kids the confidence when someone's like, oh, that's too hard, that you can be like, try me, because I understand linear algebra and calculus pretty well. And, so I think I can handle whatever it is that's going to be thrown at me.